weil umso lauter, umso du wirst, umso mehr Energie verbrauchst du. Und der ganze Witz ist, wie das dann funktioniert, ist, weil du halt wirklich zum Machen
ist der ja. Marek, übernimmst du hier mal deinen Posten?
Ja.
Also sind wir jetzt leise?
Jetzt schreibst
Ja, jetzt, also ich streame jetzt schon.
Also ganz laut schreien.
Ja, könnt, ja. Da ist alles gut.
Ich guck mal.
Ja, du kannst da mal, ich frage jetzt und dann kannst du gucken, was ich frage immer, läuft der Sound? Hören die Leute? Hört man mich? Kann bitte einer schreiben, ob man mich hört? Und dann, bei heute, liebe Leute, so, jetzt muss ich auf Englisch sprechen. Okay, I switch to English. So I asked if somebody can hear me, then please write in the chat. Mariana is helping me with the questions that we got via email. She's reading the questions to me. Sounds a bit ridiculous, but I thought it's a fun idea.
Sound check okay?
Yeah, okay. And Marek is doing the technical things here today with video. I thought let's try this. Let's try the video. We have a lot of people here in the school that are double live, that are also participating, and every one of you can feel free to also be part of the discussion. If you have a thought, you can say it. I just need to switch something at the microphone if somebody wants to say something. Yeah. Okay. And everyone in the chat is also welcome to ask questions, and for the people that cannot enter the chat because they don't have a Google account, they can send an email to kontakt@josefbarz.de. Ja. Wenn du mir eine Frage vorliest, dann musst du mir die Nummer sagen. I made some notes, I got quite a few questions, and there are some I will not answer just because some I don't have something to say about, I don't know, and others are very big, and there was one about prices and stuff that I will answer in a different stream, which is about ethics of buying and economy and so on and so forth, that I will post soon. Good. So, but since it was so many questions, I was sitting down yesterday already and made some notes for myself. So I don't have to think now. Can you start?
Yeah,
Mariana?
I can. Can I pick anyone?
Yes.
Okay. I'll pick the first one. Number 1. So, concerning fees for your workshops.
But this is the question I'm not answering.
But you didn't. Okay, so I'll pick question number 16.
Good choice.
So, I recently stumbled on a quote saying, "I don't like marketing myself or promoting myself. I just want to teach." And it was signed by the most narcissistic narcissist in the world. Don't you think that disconnecting too much from the tools that tend to distract us and always focusing on deep work could have a negative impact, like taking our work too seriously?
Yeah, I actually looked up this quote because I wasn't sure if it's a joke, that it's from the most, like that there is an actual name that is from someone that is narcissistic or something, but it's really like a joke quote about, I think it's supposed to say that if you are saying you don't market yourself, that you think you're so great that you don't have to do that. I think that's the joke about it. And the question is basically about how important is it to to stay away from this? Or I think to reach a balance with this stuff is, yeah, that's the thing. Maybe that's a good opportunity to talk about that I post a bit more now on social media, and I've written in the newsletter about it, so some people already know. Because I'm always drawn between not posting and posting and so on and so forth. Because I don't really like this social media myself, and I don't really use it myself. So what I do at the moment is when I post, I don't actually post in the apps. I don't open Facebook or Instagram. I have another thing that's called Later. And in this app, I just schedule the post, so I'm never actually there on Facebook or Instagram. So it's a bit of a weird situation where I don't use this myself, but I post stuff there because I also know that many people are on these platforms and they're coming from these platforms to us, and so yeah, it makes sense to do something there, and at the same time I want to propagate to not use this stuff more than you need, so to use it as a tool, and for this can be very useful. Also, what I wrote in the newsletter is what we sometimes do is we go to training and then we take our phone, because usually we don't have our phones, we don't use our phones when we train, so there can be occasions where we use the phones while training, we use the social media and just browse through videos and look for things that inspire us, and then we directly practice it. Instead of sitting at home in the evening and you scroll and you don't do anything with it, you go to train and then you look for it and then you directly use it, you directly apply it. And then I think it can be very, very useful. Yeah. So that would be my main use for it as a consumer. But there was something other in the question, no?
Yeah. If disconnecting too much from the tools, they tend to distract us, and always focusing on deep work could have a negative impact, like taking our work too serious.
Yeah, it can always happen. You can always take yourself too seriously. Yes. So from now on, I will, for the rest of this stream, I will be on Facebook. Yeah, I know it's always the case, but someone has to be a bit extreme with this, so I took this part. Next one, please.
Yeah. Any questions from
here or from the room? Marek, you have a question?
No, someone via email has a question.
Oh.
You want it?
Yeah, I read it. It's in German or in English?
In English.
Oh,
it's from Sander. Dear Joseph, when you have convinced a student to abandon a goal-oriented approach, how do you teach to take on a process-practice mindset? I imagine that the shift in mindset does not occur overnight. Can you guide this transition? Are there certain things you introduce first and other things later to get familiar with the practice mindset? And is this different when you have the opportunity to teach face-to-face compared to, let's say, writing? I'm happy to hear your thoughts. Thanks, Sander.
Okay. This is the second time I got this question, almost the same question, about the orientation of your practice. In another live stream that was called Contemplation about All Sorts of Things, I talked about 3 different orientations: goal orientation, process orientation, and being orientation. And goal orientation means you care mainly about reaching the goal. Process orientation means you care about the process, how you get there, and so on and so forth. And then I added a third one that is usually not in the discussion. That is being orientation, so you don't even care about the process. just care about being. Okay, so now the questions come in how to get there, and I'm a bit not there yet. I don't know. I don't really know, because it's also not that you're always in this orientation or always in this orientation. You have situations where it changes from one to the other. In some things you are more goal orientated, and in some things you are maybe more process orientated. But the idea was that the goal orientation can create trouble, because if you reach your goal, then it's usually not a good day, but it's actually not so good day, because you reach your goal and then you don't know what to do anymore. And then if you are on the other side being orientated, then this is not happening, and you also don't care so much about you reach something or you don't reach something, and so on and so forth. So that's the idea that I have, and I'm trying to talk with people about it. I think that's the main thing I'm doing at the moment there, because I noticed that so many people, and I think it's especially an issue in the online support that I do, because there's a bit more mathematical. So there are numbers, and then it happens that people get more goal orientated, and maybe it is because of the numbers. So the numbers are a bit problematic. I think one idea could be to take out the numbers. That is, for people that train longer, then I would give 1 month to train without any counting. You're not allowed to count. Or not allowed, yeah. You just don't count. If you're very used to counting, I'm also someone that counts a lot when I train and so on, because I'm very methodical. But then also purposefully I don't do it. And I think this already makes a big change if you don't count anymore. So maybe that's a good way to start. That's how far I am at the moment. Maybe throughout the years we can get more of a process in this. Ja, von now kann man das sagen. Max, wolltest du was sagen? Okay. Hat jemand von euch was? Nein. Dann machen wir weiter.
Okay. So I'll go to question number 3. Is meditation a part of your practice? And if so, how does it look like? I find the intermediate practice of doing nothing very interesting and a good state of transformation. And there is a very similar question, number 7. Also.
Yeah. Okay, so the question about meditation. Marek, that is on the computer, he is meditating for many years, so some information I also got from him actually about my meditation practice. I'm very happy to use the knowledge of the people surrounding me. So yes, I do meditation, and there are lots of different meditations, and at the moment I'm very interested in Vipassana style meditation. And my friend Raphael, who's doing a lot of meditation, I asked him what are the different categories of meditation. Because I was so confused about all the different ways of meditating. I thought, okay, are there different? Can we categorize it a bit? So I can say, okay, this is a bit more this, this is a bit more this. He said, yeah, you can categorize it in 3 ways. There is insight meditation. This is like Vipassana, where you observe what is happening. Yeah, I think it's right to say that. Then there's focus meditation. Focus meditation is about staying focused on a thing. That can be a mantra or your breath or whatever. But there it's about the focus, not about the observation. And then as the 3rd thing he mentioned, Zen meditation, which is in a way different, and I don't know much about Zen meditation, so I'm not sure what's happening there. So, I like this Vipassana meditation a lot at the moment, and for around 2 years I do also another thing that's not known, not very known. It's called full presence meditation. This is from a French guy, Danny Bois. That is, I think, a chiropractor, so it's not the usual thing, but it's also an insight meditation. So that would be maybe the main stuff I'm doing at the moment. And then I learned sacred silence many years ago, at the wilderness training from my teacher Uwe, and he learned it from Tom Brown, and Tom Brown learned it from his teacher, and so on and so forth. So it's also an interesting meditation, because the idea there is to mold all the stuff that is happening in all sorts of meditations, to mold it together into one meditation. That is the sacred silence. So if you're interested in knowing what this is, sacred silence, you can also Google it, and there are YouTube things where you have a guided sacred silence meditation. I think for some that can be very interesting, for others that's maybe not the thing, but I have some interesting moments with this. This is not what I practice so much at the moment. At the moment I practice insight meditation and a bit of focus meditation also, but it's mainly the insight meditation, full Vipassana style, and this full presence meditation that I do guided from a teacher here in Berlin. Yeah.
Questions?
There's a question in the chat.
About the last question of the previous topic about being goal-oriented. What about being goal-oriented and process-oriented at the same time? Monkey King asked that.
Okay, so the question was, what is about being goal-oriented and process-oriented at the same time? Yeah. I have nothing to answer about this. It's enough to just have this as a question in the room. I don't need to say anything. Somebody here in the room wants to add something about meditation. Someone has a meditation, some other thoughts about meditation, or something that he thinks is important to add, or she. Marek, you? Or it was you okay with my explanation? Okay, if something comes to mind, you can say something.
Okay, so make a connection to what you said on the answer about the meditation, about learning from other people. It's just like a bridge. Martin Kivaldi is one of the teachers you still learn from, and he will come on March. That's also another question. How important is continuing education for you? If it is important to keep learning from other teachers, why is it so important?
Which one is this?
Number 15. No, number 26.
Yeah, so Martin, I learned from him for several years, and he's coming here again in March. He was here also last year, and I think this will continue. I hope this will continue, and yeah, I think it's very. I mean, it would be somehow a bit weird if I'm all the time in front of people saying things and teaching, and then I don't do it myself. Like go somewhere, it would be a bit weird. But I also have met people like this already that say they don't need to learn from anyone anymore. Yeah, I think it's very useful. And I think the main thing about a teacher is that the teacher is helping you to do something that you wouldn't do otherwise. That's actually the reason for a teacher, because otherwise you wouldn't really need a teacher. If you would do everything anyway yourself, then you wouldn't need a teacher. But we acknowledge that we are not doing everything anyway. So we are going to people where we think, this person can help me to do something that I am not doing otherwise. And with Martin, I definitely had this. He's very unique in his approach. Also in the dance community, you can look up his videos on YouTube. It's when first time you see it, it's very strange. It's like, it's very strange. And the first time I met him, it was also very interesting for me. Or the first time I learned from him, it was very interesting. It opened quite a world, and yeah, that stuck with me. So, and many of the things in the practice that we do are from Martin. Thank you, Martin.
So there is one more question about Martin, but I think you just answered.
Yeah, good then. You don't need
I
it.
have probably a question.
Yeah, Danny.
It's just about the place. When you started to look out for a place like this for your school, and you saw this place, that you fell immediately in love with this place, and so like, oh, this is the place where I want to have my school, or why did you choose like this area? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a good question because it's a funny story. So the question is about the school. We are in the school. For the people that don't know, we are at the moment, we are here in our school. Several people are staying here at the moment with our basic intensive, sleeping here in the bedrooms and so on and so forth. Yeah, very great. This was a dream of me for many years. And Benny asked, how did we choose this place? So now the story starts. Okay, so I there's one participant in the training that asked me, "Hey, Josef, because the group is happening in different places, do you consider to have your own place at some point?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And I actually have some clear thoughts about what I want and what I don't want. That I want a place for people to stay. I don't want a place in the city. I want it a bit more out. I want to have this school idea where people can stay for a longer time, really get into the practice and so on and so forth. Okay, so she liked the idea, and then she sent me, a few days later, she sent me a link to a place on one of the websites, one of the rental thing websites, about a place that is not this place, a place that is quite close to where I live, which was a very big old place that was quite cheap. It was like a huge building and a huge everything, but it was quite cheap, but it was very, very old, so we would have to put a lot of money there, which I didn't want. I wanted to have a solution where that is not so risky. Yeah, I wanted to have a solution that is not so risky. So I looked at it, and before I didn't look on the websites for months looking for places. And then I thought, okay, now I'm here on this website anyway. I put something in the search, and then one of the first things that came was this place. And I thought, okay, that's interesting, because this place has, for the people that have never been here, there's a very unique architecture. It is a house, a normal house in a way, but it has a huge room, and this is super hard to find. Either you have big rooms, but you have nothing else, like you have no kitchen, of course, but you don't even have heating, you don't have toilets, you don't have anything, and you need to put everything. So the architecture here is very, very unique in this house, because it was built from someone that was also teaching yoga. Not also, because I'm not teaching yoga. That was teaching yoga. And they are not living here anymore. They moved away. And then another yoga teacher was living here for a long time. So, okay, we went here, we looked at it, and we were, okay, yeah, we will think about it. And the makler, well, how do you say this in English?
Real estate agent.
Real estate agent, okay. The real estate agent told us, yeah, you can take your time, because actually the house is not in the internet anymore, because they were missing one paper that you need to have it in the internet, otherwise this is illegal to have it in the internet. So it was a bit like, okay, all fate wants that we are going here. So we said yes. Let's do it. Yeah, it was very funny coincidences because I really didn't look for a while, and then this popped up, and I wouldn't have imagined to have something like this where it's really we can just start without putting toilets and blah 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 and everything, and I need to talk. I need to talk with banks about loans and all this stuff. So I didn't have to do anything about this, which I'm very happy about. Yeah.
Prams. You have mentioned number 6, Kinderwagen.
Prams.
Yeah, that's the British
Stroller. I always say stroller.
Stroller. I think it's the British word.
Yeah.
You have mentioned several times that you and Annika have completely renounced using a pram stroller for Ephraim in the first half year. How did you deal with the reactions from your environment? Were you the only parents to be the child's caregivers, or did other people carry Ephraim? Has the approach changed in the meantime, and why do you think that this personal contact is so important at the beginning?
Because I read this book that I really like, called The Continuum Concept by Jean Liedloff, and in German it's called Die Suche nach dem verlorenen Glück, and I got to know this book from my math teacher. We had a lot of fights with each other, me and my math teacher. We had a very special relationship, but I learned some good things. 2 books I got to know from him. One is this, and the other one is the other book. I forgot the name. Anyway, so this book, the author went to the Amazonian forest in Brazil, I think. Mariana's from Brazil. I think she went to Brazil and went to the parents, to the natives there, and looked at the parents and saw how they're doing things, and then they carry their child in the first months. They only carry their child. Obviously, they don't have prams in the rainforest. That would not be very useful, I think. Yeah. So, and there were other things that I really liked, like they just let knives lie around and the small children play with it and blah blah blah. That they had a complete different point of view about education of children. And I read this book when I was 15, and since then I knew that when I have a child, I will not do the pram thing, and I think now it's very common. So it was not that I was rebellious against anything, because at least here in Berlin, many parents do that. It's acknowledged that children it's best to carry them so they still have contact, because before they were having contact all the time, all of a sudden they're in the world, and it's like, oh, what's happening with me, from paradise to almost paradise. And then if you carry them, it's like a transition phase from the womb to the corporate world of the Wall Street. Yeah, so we carried him, I think it was something like 6 months. We didn't use a pram, then we introduced it just slowly, and now we do this and that. And my aunt and my mother also took care of him just a tiny bit, and maybe they used the stroller once, but they were also, we explained and they understood, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it was going all very well here in Berlin. It's hello Christian, here in Berlin, you are part of the hipsters if you carry your child in a nice, of course they need to be nice clothes, they look nice. Yeah, and it's good, it's a side information, it's good to get some professional to learn the technique of how to do it. This is what we did. Friends of us actually were so kind to give this to us as a gift. Yeah, that was very nice. So someone came and explained to us, and that was very helpful. Good. Dandu?
Okay. Number 19. The book question. That's the question I was going to ask. The book question.
I like the book question.
How do you manage to read so much? This one?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's the one.
I like this one.
How do you manage to read so much? And how do you acquire knowledge from what you have read? In short, how does what you read and hear become your own knowledge? And when does one cross the boundary of hearsay?
What?
Of, yeah, that's a word.
Hearsay.
I don't know.
This is translated by algorithm.
Hearsay is a real word.
Hearsay.
Yeah, it's a real word.
Okay. When it becomes real knowledge, like it's something you heard or something you really know
when
yourself.
does it become your own opinion?
Yes.
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah, that's a huge difference, first of all. Because most of the time, like many things that we are talking about, we haven't really practiced ourselves. It's opinions that float around. And I was then, when I read this question, I was even thinking, do we actually have our own opinions? Does something like this even exist? Or are there opinions in society and so on and so forth? So that's interesting. But we read books and then we take what is written in there and we repeat it. We also say blah 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 blah, and it sounds a bit like it's our opinion, but maybe it's just something we read. Okay, I actually already read a small essay about it some time ago. But first of all, I need to say that I don't read much. Since Ephraim is alive, I'm actually really not reading much, but I listen, for many years I listen to audiobooks, and this is something I still do a lot. So it can be in between 0 minutes to a few hours per day that I listen to audiobooks. And yeah, I really like that. But I also always buy the print version so I can take notes and so on and so forth. But at some point I will start to read more again. At the moment I always carry a book with me, but I don't always have time to look at it. But sometimes I get some good moments. After the day after Christmas I could finish a book in one day. That was nice because it didn't happen in a long time. But anyway, I think that reading many books is not necessarily something very useful. Because sometimes people say that they read many books and it sounds like it's a great thing, but I don't understand why it's a great thing. Because if you read like several books a week, how on earth are you retaining what is written in there or putting it into practice? It's impossible. There is also this thing, speed reading, and for example, Tim Ferriss is talking about speed reading, and I read his book for our work week, and he's teaching us speed reading in the book. And then I just was speed reading his book through. Of course, I didn't retain so much. The thing is, if you practice it, they say you can retain more, but still, I have done speed reading on books where I knew that I don't care much about the book. I just want to get an overall idea about the book, and I don't care about the details or retaining anything. But I think if you want to retain something, you need to read it very carefully, and if possible, you do the Verzetteln technique, which Marek is looking at me because he loves it. I got to know this from Sascha Fast. He taught me this and I really, really love it. He has also published some things about it, about Verzetteln. If you're German, you can look this up. I think it's only in German. I don't know if there's an English version. This is based a lot on the work of Niklas Luhmann, a sociologist that had his technique how to take notes, and this is basically a note-taking technique. It would go a bit too far to explain this now, but to sum it up, to take notes from what you've read so you can use it later, or at least look at it later, is super useful and important. What I also like is to do sheets and put it on the wall for some time about a book. Yeah, if you do this Verzetteln, you don't need to read a book several times. You just have your notes and you can look at them. So that's very useful. Yeah, the other extreme of people that read all sorts of books are people that are reading only one book, like religious people that read only the Bible or the Torah or the Quran or something like this. Which is obviously, this is very problematic if you read only one book, but on the other hand, it's interesting because they read this book for years and years and years, and they can find so many things in this book and really absorb it and get a lot of stuff out of it, wisdom, whatever. So it's not necessary to read a lot of books. Yeah, I like books, but it's not necessary to read a lot of books. You can also read just one, but then it needs to be the right one. For example, the Yellow Pages. Or at the moment I read Faust from Goethe, and I have the feeling this is one of the books you can read for 20 years. And Brothers Karamazov from Dostoevsky is also one of these books. Yeah, maybe I publish this essay soon. I wrote it many centuries ago.
When you listen to audiobooks, do you practice movement at the same time, or do you?
Actually, most of the time I sit in the car when I listen to audiobooks, or I go take a walk. I never train when I listen to audiobooks, because then I cannot listen properly. Yeah. So I only do things where I don't have to concentrate, like driving. Don't focus at all. No, I of course have to focus, and I always realize when I have to tap on the 30 seconds back button many times. That it doesn't always work, but yeah. Or when you wash the dishes and so on and so forth, that's also a good moment. But I now with Ephraim, I did a lot like walking with Ephraim where he sleeps, so I carry him in the cloth, he sleeps, and I listen to an audiobook and walk around. So that was nice. Now he's too heavy to do this for hours. Yeah?
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh!
So there is the group training that we have, and we train for 2 hours and a half.
Yeah.
5 days a week. And when telling friends that there is this group training and we do 2 hours and a half, this is a big, usually a very big shock. Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if there is when you were formulating the group training and thinking if there was for you a motivation to do this long,
to do that long.
And why is that relevant?
Yeah, I needed so long. That's why I did it. I first did 90 minutes, and it was always that I thought, oh, we just started, and then we did 2 hours, and then I still thought we just started, and now we do 2.5, and sometimes in the end of 2.5, I thought, oh, I was finished 15 minutes ago already. So I think maybe we do 2 hours and 15 minutes soon. In a few years it will change to 2 hours and 15 minutes. But for now, 2 hours and a half. I think 2 hours and a half are very good. You can really do a session with lots of things. I know it's long. It's also many people do 1 hour. Like in CrossFit, you do just 1 hour because it's very intense. Like you don't do so much technical training. We do a lot of stuff that just takes time. And I understand that it's a bit of a hurdle for people, especially since it's in the evening. And there's another question about training in the evening. We can talk about after. Yeah, it's a bit of a hurdle, but But for me, 2.5 hours works very well on most days. I have also days where I think, okay, today let's do only 90 minutes and then it's enough. Because it really depends on the topic. Ja.
Cool.
Ist es dazu?
Yeah.
Dann erstmal.
There's another question to the group training. I was just interested in how did you start the group training? Did you already knew some people you trained with regularly and out of that through the group training, or have you just posted a note somewhere or like announcing on Facebook, I'm going to start a group training, who wants to join?
Yeah, okay. So how did I start the group training? I get also the question often, how did you start with this and blah 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 blah, how to teach and so on and so forth. So I started to teach professionally parkour for Parkour 1, which is a organization in Germany, in Switzerland, that was one of the first ones in Germany to start offering professional parkour trainings, and I started there to teach, and from there I started to give my own class that was still integrated in Parkour 1, and some people were interested in the stuff that I did there. Actually, I did like a strength and conditioning class, because I was there the strength and conditioning expert here in Berlin. From Parkour 1, and so I had this class, started with this, and then this class just developed more and more and more. It's still the same class.
When was it? When?
10 years ago, almost 10 years ago. Yeah.
So how old have you been?
I was not so. I don't want to mention this. I'm already 520 years old, and the first 510 years I was only reading books. I started to teach when I was 18, and now I'm 27. In a few days, I'm 28. On Tuesday, you can all send greetings. Yeah. Where was I? Okay, so I started the group training. A few people came that knew me from the parkour stuff, and then from there it developed, but super slow. Yeah, sometimes people ask, how do I do it? Blah 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 blah, and I think you have to be resilient and wait for many years, because it was super slow how it started, like years and years and years. Every year one more person. 2 people left, 1 person came. No, I was doing for some time with only 2 people and stuff. Like I remember one winter I had 2 people super dedicated, always there, but I did only with these 2 people for months. And I just said, okay, this is what I do. I really believe in it, and from there it developed. And I got more known because then I was starting to teach for other companies. Workshops around the world and so on and so forth, and this helped me a lot to develop the group training. Yeah. I think if you're a bit better in marketing yourself, then maybe it goes quicker, but for me it was slow. Yeah. Mark?
There was the suggestion of Frecky. You should make a video about your favorite books.
A video about my favorite books. Yeah. I will do it in 500 years. Yeah, I can do it. Yeah, I can. I don't know if it needs to be a video. I can also just write it down.
Yeah?
Yeah, Kevin Hobbs, I like a lot. And Asterix books. The question about later.
Yes.
Yeah.
With your group, you train also in winter quite late in the evening. For me, late training has been always associated with having problems to fall asleep. This also happens in the hall or under artificial light. Do you know such problems?
Yeah, I would be interested in what the people here say. The people from the group that train so late. No. I don't know any problems.
No, I always
Perfectly fine.
Yeah? Always? Great. You sleep better than when you train compared to not training?
No, actually, I have pretty good sleep, so.
Anyway, yeah.
So it doesn't affect it at all.
When you're as old as me, Julian. Soon we will practice even later because I cannot fall asleep anymore. Any other? Marek is opening a milk chocolate here. That's why I feel a bit loud.
I sleep worse after doing
Marek sleeps worse.
strong or heavy training.
But you are always meditating in the evening, no? Or you try?
Yeah.
Does this help you then to fall asleep?
Yeah, like I mean, mentally, it calms down the mind, of course. But if my body is just aggregated because of some strong strength training, then like this keeps me like. It's actually I'm falling asleep easily, always, but like I sleep worse. Yeah, if my muscles need to repair or like are really tired.
Yeah, it's an interesting point about what is happening in the class. No, it's dependent also on what's happening in the class. So you say when we do strength training. Turn around. So you say when we do strength training, then it's harder for you to fall asleep. Is there some movement stuff that helps you in the beginning to fall asleep?
I mean, it became also better over the years. I think in the very beginning, like it was super hard for me to fall asleep after we had like a crazy workout. Now it's better, and I guess I don't know. Maybe like some stretching is always nice, like slow stretching helps me to fall asleep, or like makes me also sleep better.
Okay. Yeah, Julia?
Yeah, I recognize that, I mean, for a long time, that the more I train, like in general, the more energy I get. And it's so hard to find a real balance there because I don't know where to fix it. And sometimes after the training, I feel like, okay, I could run now for 10 kilometers, and sometimes I fall asleep just like that. But for sure, like when I don't really use my full energy for 1 day, 1.5 days, I get completely crazy. I feel like I could explode. So whatever the training is necessary.
Okay. Yeah.
Better sleep.
Yeah, I think it's not optimal that we train so late in the evening. So I don't do it because I feel this is the best time. I do it because this is how the society works. People work until 5, some until 6. This is why we practice at this late time. If I would practice at 4, not many people would be able to come. But I would prefer to do it at 4 o'clock until 6:30, and then you have your time to really calm down, to make food slowly, sit down, contemplate, talk, meditate, read, or do the normal things like sitting at the TV, watching a series. I feel, for me, the worst is light. If it's very, like, I feel now, the last years I didn't feel so much, but now in my 520th year, I feel I'm more with the LED lights from the screens. It's not so easy for me anymore. I really feel if it's 10 and for some reason I was on the screen, I feel something is weird. I can really feel it in myself. It's weird.
Is it about the color of the light, or?
It's definitely about the colors of light. You see here the light is red. We've chosen this red light. It's much nicer in the evening.
Red light.
And at home I also have this, and also I did already many months in total, usually I do this in the summer without electrical light, just candles and petroleum lamps. This changes everything completely. Like it's so different evening if you just have candles and petroleum lights, because they're not so bright. This is super bright, you see everything. If you just have a candle, you have shades, some things you see okay, some not. Everything becomes much more small. Like you have your book, and the other things you just see shapes of. You don't see so clear. It's very, very different. And you can also notice that outside, many of the streetlights also have red light. So the streetlight makers, they know also this problem. Yeah. And I have streetlights that shine into my room, and I would like to. I was thinking a few times. Maybe just install a switch there too. Although I sleep very well even with light on, because as a child I was doing this very often. Yeah. So I don't need a room that is completely dark. Some people want a room completely dark. I prefer tiny bit of not super dark, because this is how I grew up. But some people say this is the best if it's very dark. I don't know. If I sleep outside in the forest, usually it's also not extremely dark, but you see something. So yeah. But LED lights, I think it's also, now we have LED lights everywhere. The European Union has said, okay, no normal lights anymore, and also no halogen lights anymore. So we can choose LED or the other one with the mercury inside. Yeah, the LED it lasts longer, is more efficient. So we start not to have LED everywhere. But what we don't know is what it does to us, because it has this flicker that you see on if you have a video camera and the shutter speed is put to a certain speed, then you can see the flicker. And we don't really know what it does. We just don't know. So maybe it does something, maybe not. We don't know. Yeah. Flicker, flicker, flicker.
There is a question about not knowing. So I thought maybe this is a good.
Not knowing.
Yeah.
That's great. Is it coming, the question?
Yeah, let's go. Okay, so the apparent inability to know has often had a relevant influence on me in life decisions, and does not let go of me. Not infrequently, this creates unrest and yet seems unavoidable to me. So my question is, does this topic somehow play a role for you? If so, how do you deal with it?
Yeah, there is an answer to this that I felt with quite a few questions. I think this question is about like choices and something like this, no? And I think Joao you had also a similar question about knowing what is the right thing to do and so on. And from my teacher Uwe, I learned interesting things, and things that Tom Brown is talking about is very interesting. Which is that's more like, it sounds more fleshy because it's about the spirit and stuff like this, but you can also call it Marek is stretching. But now, what if something is happening on the stream?
I have the screen. I'm checking it.
Okay. Call it the spirit, but you can also call it gut feeling. And I think because we are so rational today and put everything in numbers, we are not using gut feeling so much, which also makes sense in a way, like, because we realized that the Enlightenment, so the period, like the century of Enlightenment, the idea of science has brought us many positive things, and the scientific method, which maybe it's also connected a bit to this question. You can look up Karl Popper. You can look up the logic of science. Maybe it's called in English. In German, it's called Logik der Forschung. It's basically about how does science work, and to sum it up, instead of trying to figure out ways how you can prove your theory, you try to falsify your theory. So if my theory is that Mariana can never fall to the right side, then what I will try is to falsify my theory and push you so you fall to the right side, and then I see, okay, this was a wrong theory, it was not right. And then I can change the theory. Mariana is never falling, only when Joseph is pushing her, then she's falling. So now I have a new theory that I can still falsify, and so on and so forth. But many people, they try to prove what they say. The scientific way would be try to falsify what you say, because this is how you make something stronger, if you have a hard time to falsify it. Yeah. Anyway, this idea of that there is, like in this wilderness stuff, is called the spirit that moves through all things. So that everything is connected and is communicating with each other. And in many more native cultures, this is a thing. I think also maybe in Eastern culture and philosophy, that can be a thing. But in this Native American philosophy is definitely a big part. Spirit that moves through all things. And as I said, you can call this gut feeling. Yeah. This is interesting to try to follow it. And from Uwe, I learned several, maybe technique sounds a bit weird, but we did quite a bit of stuff following the gut feeling. There are exercises like you search something, people are hiding and you search them, but not through looking rationally, but through from here, not from here. Yeah. This is what I had in mind when I was reading this question about the gut feeling or the spirit, and about all these questions about how, when, what.
So I shouldn't read anymore with how, when, and what.
Are there more how and what question? They are all answered by the spirit that moves forward things.
I can read like an existential question.
Questions.
I can read an existential question I almost missed because I was stretching. Can you give some more details about the school, about like the living situation here, and how you wash your laundry, and how you cook?
How you cook?
Yeah, like how does it work here with cooking and washing your laundry? And more details about the living situation.
If you want to have more details about the school, just write an email and I will send you the details about the school. But I have to say the laundry is not included in these details per se. Now there's a washing machine. You go, you open the washing machine, you put your dirty clothes inside, you close the washing machine, you put some washing thing inside. You have lots of programs that you can switch on. There's wool, there's sports. It's also very energy efficient. It's A+++.
How about cooking?
From Siemens. It's from Siemens. What?
Cooking.
Cooking is also perfect here. We have a kitchen.
Who built the kitchen?
Huh?
Who built the kitchen?
The kitchen was now I have to say everything again. The kitchen was built in Sweden. the kitchen was built in Sweden. It was built up by us here all together. That was very nice. And thanks to one of the guys, Ben, he has set up many kitchens already. Yeah, like this we could do it. And the kitchen has everything you need. It has 4 plates of induction that sometimes I think the induction is very close to getting consciousness, because it starts some things sometimes, like switching off and on, but it works very well. It's very modern. Also, there's a fridge, big fridge, also from Siemens, also A+++. Just the best stuff here, just the best stuff. I would like to have this kitchen myself, to be honest. So I'm thinking of taking half of it home. And you just cook, but for yourself, but actually we always share. Recently I made a pumpkin soup here just for myself, and then I ate a bit and then it was gone after. I was very sad. I was very sad. There's also a story about this. In school, when I was in school, there were always the kids that were sharing the food with each other. I wasn't really into sharing my food because like most children got their food like their parents made it, but I made it myself from very early age. I chose what I wanted to eat. And I put exactly how much I wanted. And then others came out, can I try? And I thought, no, you cannot try. Because why don't you set up your thing in how you want it? Because I set up in the way I want it. So, and then I got this gummy bears. It's called like this, gummy bears? I got these gummy bears that are extremely spicy, like joke gummy bears, you know, that you give to a person like this. So I got with it to school and I thought, it will be so funny. And so I just say, hey, someone wants some gummy bears? And really no one wanted the gummy bears because everyone was, no, something is wrong. You're not sharing your food usually. So, yeah, should have prepared this joke earlier, like months before starting to share my food. Ja, Mariana, hast du da noch was?
Yeah, there's quite a few questions.
Wie spät ist das?
21:21 Uhr.
Okay, so we have 9 minutes left.
Oh.
Or no, or maybe 20 max.
Why do you think giving your practice a name will bring dogmatism and rigidity?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Which number is this? Okay, so there's this thing that the practice has, actually now it has a name, it's called Physical and Cognitive Practices. This is how I call what I do. And I think it is very nice name. I was so excited when it came up in my mind. Then I thought I'd make a hashtag of it, PCP. Physical and Cognitive Practices. Then I realized this is a drug. PCP, I cannot use this as a hashtag. It was terrible. Now I have to use the hashtag Physical Cognitive Practices very long. But maybe we can grow so much that there will be more people training using this hashtag than drug users. But for some time, or for a long time, and I still are concerned about it, I didn't want to give it a name because of the associations of the people, not because I didn't want to give it a name. Names are nice, fancy, but before, for example, I called, the thing was called, or my company was called Naturpfade. So it has this connection to nature. And then when I was doing that was not nature, whatever this means, like inside or different approach from natural, then people were like very confused. And then I realized, okay, now because of the name, everyone has these associations and I cannot work properly anymore. I cannot work free anymore. So now if you call yourself crazy jumps because you are jumping a lot, but half a year later you do a push-up, then you will need to do the push-up jumping because you're called crazy jumps, and the associations from the people are that you have to do everything jumping. This is why I didn't want the name anymore, and this is why I switched everything to my own name as a website so I can do whatever I want and I can change it, because I change all the time what we do. And that's why I call it physical and cognitive practices, because it's so vague that it can mean everything. It can just mean everything. Yeah. Yeah. It's because of the people.
Okay, I'm gonna change the topic.
Can I ask why you didn't change? Why you didn't choose movement as the name? Like beside your name, your name makes
because I'm not sense. Because I'm not just doing movement. I know it's hard to get the memo, but we are doing many other things. For example, meditation is not movement, so how can I call it movement? We do a lot of stuff, crafting stuff with the hands. You can call this movement, but it's almost tricky because movement has now all these associations. And do you mean movement or do you mean movement? This is also where people get so confused. And I get also one question with this, maybe we can get to this after, or calisthenics and something like this. I made this video called Was ist Movement? What is movement? Where I talk about the problematic use of this. Yeah. So when we talk in German, at least from my perspective, I never say movement. Now in the last days of this basic intensive, I never said, because we are talking German this time, I never said movement. I always said Bewegung, blah 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 blah, because I don't want to make it a thing that is like, I don't want to make it a term that stands for certain movements, you know? Because for many people now, when they talk about movement, they think about handstands, tennis balls, floor, touch but in the park, and all this stuff. Yeah, yeah. This is what people think about. But
it also depends how you see the thing. Like when you see it like an open name, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's true. But movement wouldn't be right. Just because we're doing so many other things. I'm not in the basic intensive, but in the other intensive we're doing so many other things where it's clear. We do sitting practices where you just sit, so it's not movement. But of course you can say, yeah, there's moving something in time.
Yes, you can say that.
You can always say that, but then it becomes also meaningless in a way. If you just say everything is movement, everything moves, it's like, okay, then I cannot use this word anymore because it just means everything, which is nice. It's nice. So in the build-up that we use in the map that I will show you guys from the basic intensive in the next days, most likely tomorrow, we say movement practice, and we mean by it fighting, dancing, locomoting through space, communication, and manipulating objects. Boom. This, we say, is the movement practice. And this is part of what we do, but there are so many other things, and this is why I call it physical and cognitive practices. This allows me also to, in a few years, maybe I don't want to do push-ups anymore. Who knows? And then I can just say it's physical and cognitive practices, and now we are only doing math here. We don't only do math. I like math. Mathematics. Yeah. It's clear. It's clear. Yeah.
It's a kind of personal interpretation, like how you see it, how you value it, and
Exactly.
I can understand how you see it.
And it also has something to do with my linguistic fetish. That I for me is words. It's important how to use them and so on and so forth. So ja. Wolltest du was, Marc?
Ich nicht, aber jemand aus dem Chat.
Okay, yeah. Start the mic. The mic.
So someone is asking if you could give some details about your diet.
I think I did this in another time about my personal diet.
Yes.
Okay, I try to feel what is good for me. Recently I was sick for 1 day and I fought it off through mental strength. No, I actually did some mental stuff and I think it helped. And after this, for example, I got super strict with what I ate, but there was no system that you would know. I was just seeing things and I saw this is good for me, this is not good for me, this is good, this is not, and this is what I try now, because I tried several things and now I just want to really find my personal spirit that moves through all things, diet. Instead of like really, this is good, this is bad, blah, 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 blah. Actually, there's an interesting thing from this Tom Brown, where he says that in the Native American cultures, or let's say when you're in an emergency situation and you are so connected with your surrounding, you can be in front of a plant and sit there and look at it, and you know if it's eatable or not. You have this feeling, this you can eat, and this you cannot eat. Who knows if it's true, but it's a very interesting thought that you don't always need the information from someone else, but you can just be there and open your senses, and then you will know if it's eatable or not. And maybe it can be the same for us when we eat. For example, some in this room are on the Milka chocolate diet. Marek stretching in Milka chocolate. Yeah, I eat relatively good, I would say. I don't buy weird stuff. So it's all organic and I cook and blah 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 blah. It's usually not pre-made or anything like this. But it's also not that sometimes I also go eat an ice cream, like in the summer, quite regularly. After the training, it's okay. Yeah, sure.
About this. You say that you... yes, but no. You say that you kind of just feel it and you know what's good for you or not.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you say that you had to learn this through study, through experimenting, through kind of, in some way you know rationally how certain foods work and the effect they have on the body.
Yeah.
And then by feeling how you feel, how your body feels, what's happening in your body, like you're sick or something, then you know almost instinctively you associate certain foods to certain effects.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows where it comes from? I don't know if you really have to study in a way of reading things. Maybe the study can be just you trying and practicing for many years. I don't really know if you have to read a book. It's like raising a child. We all read books today, how to raise a child, like almost everyone does it. And the father of one good friend of mine, his advice was the best thing you can do is not to read any book about raising a child, but to do it just intuitively from yourself. And this can work very well, but it can also be problematic if you come from a family, I don't know, where it's normal to do not so nice things. Yeah. Or if you are in the 18th century or something like this. Maybe 19th century. I think 18th century was still okay. Goethe was living there, and I think his childhood was quite okay. At least he's talking about it in a nice way in his autobiography.
He came from a rich family.
Yeah, that's true. He came from quite a rich family. Yeah.
In China, they have like Qigong techniques where you can like work on your skill to absorb the energy of something and also send energy, and it's very close to this idea which you talked about from the Indian. So I met some Qigong masters. They touching it, and they say they feel it, and I can't believe it.
Yeah, I really like this. We are so much in our head, and we are always like nah. Yeah, why? It's even if it's not true, it's much nicer to think that this is true. Somehow it makes much more fun. Also to believe in dwarves or something like this. That's also nice. Maybe that goes a bit far with the dwarves, but yeah, I don't know. It's today's everything is so clear. We know everything. Yeah, this is the wind and this is the rain, but maybe it's also something more poetic. Who knows? Yeah. So yeah, I really like this stuff. I will try to de-rationalize myself. It will probably not work because I'm very rational.
Question 25?
Yeah, 25. Okay, I will directly answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to know what you think about pure calisthenics. I'm a student and don't have the money for a movement workshop at the moment. Furthermore, I think that it is very hard to do movement or to get better without a good personal training or workshop. So I just do calisthenics. So the next question is, do you think that you can learn movement without a workshop or personal training?
Yes.
What about the basics?
Again, this is a linguistic problem. This is just a linguistic problem because the problem is what is movement? What does the word mean? Yeah, you always have to make sure to do this. So if we talk about movement, then maybe you need to go somewhere to learn it because it's a very particular thing. It's like when I say Tai Chi, for example, because Tai Chi is a very particular thing. I cannot just stand in my room and do something because Tai Chi means certain things, there are certain things included, so I have to learn it from someone. But if it's a broad, natural idea, then you will be definitely able to find a lot of things out by yourself or with other people. Take, for example, the practice of parkour or of grappling, something we just did in the class, of grappling. This is stuff with feedback loops. It means when you do parkour, you have a feedback. Did you get over it or not? Could you do this jump or not? And like this you learn. This is why in parkour you don't necessarily need a teacher. Yeah, it's good to have friends to help each other. It's also nice to have someone more experienced, but it's not needed. When I started, we were 3 people, I think, in a small town, and we were just practicing together. We had no one to teach us. We were just trying things. Yeah, we were reading a bit of stuff in the internet. We were just trying things. And with grappling, you can do the same because you get feedback from your partner. Okay, I did this, it didn't work, blah, 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 blah. So actually, you also don't need a teacher learning fighting. But you can go to someone and then he has more experience and he can tell you exactly, this works, this doesn't work so much. Then you don't go through the process yourself anymore, which means you're just absorbing information instead of really finding things out by yourself. And this is also why I try to set up the practice in a certain way. And last week we did this, where everyone was like with their partner trying, okay, what can I do? And so on and so forth. Instead of just getting the answers. And all these things where you get a direct feedback, this you can also practice just with your friends or by yourself. Maybe you don't become the best one in the world, but it doesn't matter. There are other things that you cannot learn like this because they are artificially created things. For example, if it's a certain way of dancing that has a certain aesthetics, then I might need to go to someone to teach me the exact aesthetics about it. Yeah, so probably something like ballet will be harder to learn than just doing some fire dance, because this is more natural and you can just do something, and in ballet you have this movement there. So it depends on what you're doing. And so if it's movement, maybe you need to learn it from someone if it's an artificial thing. But if it's just movement in general, you can just do something. Or you can also just look what is around. You can, if you're in a city, there's nothing else. There's no movement happening. So what do? You look, okay, where are people climbing? Or where are people doing Feldenkreis? Go to Feldenkreis class, or you go to yoga class. You go running, or you climb a tree, or you take a walk, you swim. All this stuff is freely available or easily accessible. Yeah, it's maybe not this, it's more tuk, 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 and you have to put it together, so it becomes this. Yeah, but if it's the situation, then and I don't really see so much the association of calisthenics to movement in this way, that it's more connected to, that calisthenics is more connected to movement than, for example, Feldenkreis. But it's like often people say this, I do calisthenics, and then there is this feeling of, okay, it's connected with movement, but it is connected, yes, but it has the feeling that it's more connected than other things, calisthenics. And this I don't really understand, this thought. But yes, you can just go and practice. You don't need any money. Not needed.
There's another question in the chat.
Yeah?
If you have pain or injury, how you deal with it?
How I deal with it? Wow, that's a super big question. I actually wrote also an essay about it. Maybe I also publish it soon. So the main thing is directly start to do something about it. The problem is that many people, when they get injured or sick is something sometimes different, but if they get injured, then they are not so actively trying to make the situation better. But if you send the signal that you want to heal yourself, then you will get healthy much more quickly. I had this many times on myself and also saw it on other people. I realized this quite early because I was super excited practicing parkour, and then I injured myself a bit, and then I got healthy super quickly again. And for the doctors, they told me, hey, no, you shouldn't jump already, like you should wait. And then I realized, okay, there's a discrepancy here of my reality, where I heal quicker than what the doctors think. Why did this happen? Because I was super excited and I wanted to practice again. And if you have this in you, you want to do again, then you will heal quicker. So this is the first thing. You have to be active, and then you have to investigate. If you try to solve the same problem with the same tools and it doesn't work, then you're doing something very, very stupid. So you have to change the tools until you find the things that work. And that can mean a lot of investigation. Problem is, in our health system, the doctors have zero time. So you go somewhere, or we have also physiotherapists. Here I often have physiotherapists also in my intensives, and I think they all know the problem that we have very, very little time with the patient. And then many patients want to just get a massage. So to get a patient to do something by themselves, and also to actually, you need much more time. You need to sit down and talk, and you need to try things and investigate to make sure you can really help. But a normal doctor is 15 minutes with a patient, or sometimes even 10, and then he says, yeah, you need to get a surgery. Yeah, just because I have no time to talk with you, you need to get a surgery. Okay, and there are now some experiments also in Germany with doctors that get paid for talking, because many doctors don't get money when they talk with people. They only get money when they give them a surgery. So if they would only talk with people and help people through talking and tell them, no, do this, blah, 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 you actually don't need the surgery, they wouldn't really earn a living. And doctors also want to earn a living. So the health system is a bit problematic. This was actually not the point that I wanted to make. The point that I wanted to make was that there needs to be constant investigation, and you cannot just trust someone that says, you need to do that, because everyone is different and it can change through time. Maybe for 2 weeks you need to do this, then after this you need to do that. First in this intensity, then in this intensity. So it changes a lot, and you need to keep your senses open. So always because I have many people that ask for help, and when I'm helping, this is always the thing that I say. I also don't know how you get healthy again. We are just trying many different things, and we find out together, because everyone is different. And I know that it has very often worked with people. So yeah, to not stop moving, but to continue, but in a way that is making you more healthy. The dosage is the important thing. If it's too little, it's a problem. If it's too much, it's a problem. Yeah, that's some basic principles about injuries. Eine letzte Frage, wie spät ist es?
45.
Wirklich?
Ja.
Na, dann vielleicht keine letzte Frage. Oder was ganz Kleines, ein Wort, Antwort. Gibt's da was?
Why?
Why? Let's do just as the last question, the endurance question. For example, number 8. This is our last question.
What is your opinion about endurance training? Do you do something like that at all, or does endurance come as a side effect of the high training volume?
Yeah, and this question also came 2 times about endurance, because people ask it because this is not something you see on Instagram, that people are doing endurance. I have posted something, I think only once also about endurance. We are doing it. It's I think it's very good and also very useful, because we want to be also fit and be able to, if I want to get somewhere, I need to run. So yeah, you need to practice running. It's not that awful doing all sorts of complex things that all of a sudden you can run. No, if you don't run, you will not be able to run very, very well. You have to practice also the specific things. So in the group training, for example, we do running, really just running, especially in the winter. Then we have other phases where we do more complex endurance. Some is more parkour based, some can be fighting based, some can be with other tools, for example, the practice ball from Fighting Monkey, or there are many different things, but definitely I think it is an important point also for health, just to raise the heart rate, to sweat. That is not always happening when we practice, because often we practice very technical, and it doesn't mean that you necessarily sweat or something like this. So to have this as part of the practice. There can be also just dancing, jumping around. Yeah, also something we do. So that's very good for the health. So yeah, the metabolic conditioning just doesn't look so fancy to run on the internet. I guess that's why. And also there is this thing in the paleo community, for example, that people are against endurance running because of I don't really know why. They say it's bad. So yeah, I'm still on the Born to Run thing. I like the book. I didn't stop to like it. And I like the scene in Lord of the Rings where they run in the second one. This when every morning I was running to school. I was always late, like I was like on the minute when we started. Sometimes I was later, and then my teacher was calling me in the morning actually. For some time he was calling in the morning to wake me up. So I was every morning I was running, like it was just a 7-minute run or something, and in my head I always had this scene of Lord of the Rings where they run behind the Uruk-hai for days, and yeah, we run for days without stop and rest and eating. That is very motivating. Good, okay, that was it for today. Thanks for everyone that was participating in here in the school and also online, not in the school. Thank you, Mariana, for helping with the questions. Thank you, Marek, for stretching and doing the technical things and monitoring the chat. And see you at another time.